You already know more than you think. You just don't yet know how to read the signs. Every person leaves clues. Nietzsche's 18 psychological truths show you exactly how to find them and what they truly mean. This is the skill almost no one has ever taught. Once you learn to see it, you cannot unseen it. This is not a quick list or surface-level advice. It is a complete breakdown divided into 3 powerful parts, each building deliberately on the last. If you skip ahead or miss one, you lose the depth that makes the whole system work. Stay with me. By the end of all 3 parts, you will not only understand others more clearly, you will understand yourself in ways you never expected. From a young age, we are trained to trust what people say. Words become our currency. Yet Nietzsche warned us not to be fooled by language. People rarely speak from pure truth. They speak from survival, from ego, from fear. The surface of someone's personality is not the person. It is their armor. The one who appears overly kind may not be kind at all. They may simply be terrified of rejection. The one who seems unshakably strong may be crumbling underneath, hoping no one notices. And what is most deceptive about human beings is that most of them do not even realize they are doing it. They are actors in a play they never consciously wrote. Their smiles, their opinions, their tone of voice, all shaped by whatever once kept them safe. Most people are not hiding from you. They are hiding from themselves. Nietzsche once wrote, "Every profound spirit needs a mask." He did not mean it as an insult. He meant it as a warning. Never confuse the mask with the person. People leak the truth here is what almost no one tells you. People leak the truth constantly, not in their words, but in the cracks. The moment they look away. The laugh that lasts a fraction too long. The sudden change of subject when the conversation draws near something real. Nietzsche's first psychological truth is this. 1. Everyone wears a mask to survive. Not because they are fake, but because they are afraid. To survive in society, people create a version of themselves they hope will be accepted. Masks, however, are never perfect. They slip. The first sign of truth is tension. Watch carefully for what makes someone uncomfortable. That is where the real person begins. Machiavelli observed something similar centuries earlier. Men in general judge more by the eye than by the hand, for everyone can see, but few can feel. Appearances are the first language people speak. Learn to read beyond them. 2. What someone hates in others often reveals what they are hiding in themselves. This is one of Nietzsche's sharpest insights: projection. When a person constantly mocks arrogance, they are frequently insecure about their own self-worth. When someone cannot stop pointing out dishonesty in others, they are usually concealing a truth they have not yet faced. We hate in others what we are most afraid to admit in ourselves. So when you want to understand someone, do not look only at what they admire. Look at what they criticize, and why. 3. Silence reveals more than words. Nietzsche did not believe that truth primarily arrives through talking. He saw language as a tool of the herd, often used to avoid confronting reality. When someone pauses before answering, dodges certain topics, or gives short, rehearsed replies to deep questions, that silence is louder than any speech. A person who avoids vulnerability is revealing everything about what they fear. 4. Excessive virtue is often disguised vanity. Be wary of the person who loudly proclaims their purity, the one always correcting others, always preaching. Nietzsche called this the will to power in moral clothing. Sometimes morality becomes a mask for superiority. The louder the virtue signal, the more likely something is being hidden behind it. Real goodness does not need applause. 5. People do not lie to you first. They lie to themselves. This one changes everything. The lines you hear, "I'm fine," "I'm over it," "I don't care" are rarely lies designed to hurt you. They are lies the person has rehearsed so often that they themselves have come to believe them. Nietzsche understood self-deception not as pure evil, but as a defense mechanism, a way of continuing to function in a painful world. When someone's story does not quite add up, do not assume they are trying to deceive you. Realize they have been practicing the deception on themselves far longer. The inconsistencies are what make reading them possible. 6. Where someone feels superior, they are often hiding inferiority. This is pure Nietzsche. He saw that displays of superiority are frequently overcompensation. If someone constantly reminds you of their accomplishments, they likely fear they are not enough. If they put others down casually, they are probably terrified of being overlooked. Real confidence does not need to compete. It simply is. So if someone needs to dominate, control, or constantly prove themselves, look deeper. Behind the throne, you will often find a frightened child wearing a crown. Reading people is not about judging them. It is about understanding their core. When someone interrupts constantly, it is not always arrogance, it may be fear of being forgotten. When someone posts obsessively about happiness, it may be a quiet cry for help. When someone avoids eye contact while saying "I'm fine," listen to the body, not the sentence. Use these truths not to gain power over others, but to extend compassion. The more clearly you see someone, the less likely you are to hate them. That was Nietzsche's deeper purpose. He did not want you to see through people so you could control them. He wanted you to see through them so you could stop being fooled and begin to connect. If you have ever looked at someone and felt you were only seeing the surface, if you have ever wished you could decode what is really happening beneath the mask, leave a comment. Share the moments when people showed you the truth without saying a single word. And if this has already begun to shift how you see others, stay with me. There is much more. It is one thing to notice the mask. It is another thing entirely to watch it crack. If you have ever paid close attention, you have probably seen it happen. A flash of discomfort when someone's beliefs are challenged, the sudden shift in tone when a subject draws too near, the nervous laugh that does not match the words. These moments are not mistakes. They are clues. Once you know what to look for, you begin to understand that people are not hard to read. They are simply afraid of being seen. In the first part, we explored how people construct personas to protect themselves. Here in the second part, we go deeper into the places where those personas begin to fracture. Nietzsche believed the self is not a stable, fixed thing. It is a performance, a stitched-together role meant to survive the world. The moment that performance is threatened, the truth leaks out. 7. Most actions are driven by unconscious fear. Ask yourself, why does someone over-explain? Why do they dominate a conversation or disappear from it entirely? Why do they say yes when every part of them means no? Fear. Fear of abandonment, of rejection, of humiliation, of failure. Nietzsche knew that human beings rarely act from pure desire. They act from a deep fear of loss of status, of love, of self-worth. When you want to read someone, stop focusing solely on what they claim to want. Instead, ask, what are they afraid of losing? That is where the truth lives. 8. When someone criticizes too much, it is often projection. The next time a person constantly critiques others, listen closely. The man who mocks emotional people may be terrified of his own feelings. The woman who belittles others for their appearance may be locked in a private war with her own reflection. Nietzsche understood that judgment is almost never primarily about the other person. It is about the self. Trace the criticism back to the speaker. What part of themselves are they trying to disown? Projection is not merely a defense mechanism. It is a confession. If you listen correctly, it tells you exactly where someone's pain lives. 9. Guilt often hides behind false confidence. You have met the type. The person who seems overly sure of themselves, always in control, always composed. Watch long enough, and you will notice the tension in the jaw, the over-preparation, the defensiveness under pressure. Nietzsche observed this pattern in leaders, teachers, and moral authorities, those who perform certainty because they are terrified of being seen as uncertain. When someone appears chronically confident, look for the guilt or regret they may be trying to bury. Real peace does not need to perform. So when someone seems too confident, do not be intimidated. Be curious. 10. People betray themselves through exaggeration. This one is subtle, but powerful. Once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Someone who constantly declares "I don't care what anyone thinks" almost certainly cares deeply. Someone who claims "I'm always happy" almost certainly is not. Exaggeration is a tell. It is the ego trying to drown out doubt. Nietzsche believed that extremism in any direction is a sign of imbalance, not strength. When someone's statements sound too absolute, do not take the content at face value. Read the insecurity underneath. Exaggeration is volume. The real question is, what are they trying to silence? 11. Those who seek control often fear inner chaos. Control is something we all seek to some degree in work, relationships, routines, but some people crave it to the point of obsession. Nietzsche saw this clearly. When the inner world is disordered, the outer world must be managed obsessively. If someone micromanages every detail, cannot tolerate change, or dominates others in order to feel powerful, it is rarely because they are strong. It is because something inside them feels dangerously out of control. The stricter the outer shell, the more fragile the inner self often is. 12. The louder the performance, the emptier the core. This is one of Nietzsche's most haunting insights, and it applies more today than ever. Look at the constant "look at me" energy, the perfect poses, the curated identity, the need for perpetual visibility. Nietzsche did not see this as strength. He saw it as desperation. When someone is constantly performing, it is often because they do not believe they will be seen or loved without the performance. They create noise, color, and drama. But the person who truly knows themselves does not need to be watched. They are already whole. A life that looks like a continuous show is rarely a display of power. It is often a quiet whisper of need. You are probably beginning to feel the shift. You walk into a room, and the patterns speak louder than the words. You notice the person who interrupts constantly, and recognize the fear of being forgotten. You hear the endless boasting, and sense the invisible wound. You are not reading minds. You are reading the mask. Nietzsche simply handed you the flashlight. This is not merely a skill. It is a responsibility. Once you learn to see people clearly, you cannot unsee it. You begin to understand that most people are suffering quietly behind polished smiles. Reading them is not about gaining leverage. It is about offering grace. When you see the frightened child behind the critic, the fear behind the bully, the guilt behind the arrogance, you do not become weaker, you become unshakable. In the final part, we strip away the last layer. We look at how the deepest childhood wounds appear in adult personalities, how envy, silence, and the need to be remembered all reveal the soul. You will learn the final 6 truths that allow you to see people with greater clarity. More importantly, you will understand yourself more deeply. By now, something in you has already shifted. You no longer see people only as villains or victims. You see them as human beings trying to survive with masks they did not fully choose. But we are not finished. Behind every behavior is a belief, and behind every belief is a wound. This final part is about learning to recognize the soul, the deep story that hides beneath the surface of everyone you meet. Nietzsche did not merely expose people's patterns. He illuminated where those patterns come from. 13. No one speaks purely from logic. They speak from pain. You might assume people are rational, that they argue from facts and decide from reason. Nietzsche believed otherwise. Underneath almost every logical argument lies an emotional wound. A person may say, "I don't believe in love, it's just a fantasy." Listen carefully. They are not stating a neutral fact. They are protecting a pain. People form their views based on what once hurt them, then justify those views with logic afterward. When you want to understand someone's worldview, do not only ask what they believe. Ask what broke them. Ask what they are determined never to feel again. This changes everything. You stop asking why are they saying this, and begin asking what are they afraid of repeating. Suddenly their opinions stop feeling like threats. Their arguments stop feeling like attacks. They become shields. And when you see that, you stop reacting and start understanding. 14. How someone reacts to weakness reveals their true power. If you want to see someone's character clearly, do not watch how they treat powerful people. Watch how they treat someone who cannot fight back. Nietzsche believed that real strength is not proven through domination. It is revealed through restraint. If someone mocks vulnerability, they are often afraid of their own. If they punish mistakes harshly, they may never have been allowed to make any. If they always win but leave others diminished, they are still at war with themselves. But the person who can witness weakness without judgment, sit with sadness without fleeing, and forgive what they could have punished, that is someone no longer ruled by the past. They do not need to prove anything, because they have already won the inner war. Give someone a moment where compassion is an option. What they do in that moment shows you who they are, not merely who they pretend to be. 15. When someone fears being forgotten, they chase attention. You have met the person who needs to be seen in every room, every story, every detail of their presentation. At first, it can look like confidence. Nietzsche saw through it. The hunger for attention frequently grows from a deeper fear, the fear of being invisible, of living and dying without leaving a mark. People create noise not always because they love the spotlight, but because they cannot bear the silence. The child who was ignored often becomes the adult who overcompensates. Instead of asking for love directly, they demand it indirectly through performance, drama, or chaos. When you see someone who is too much, do not rush to judgment. Ask what they are afraid will happen if they are not enough. Sometimes the need for attention is not vanity. It is a cry. 16. The person they attack is often the person they envy. One of Nietzsche's boldest and most difficult truths: people do not always attack because they hate. They often attack because they admire something they believe they can never become. Criticism is easier than honest admiration. The person who tears down the successful, mocks the confident, or gossips about the free is frequently in pain. To see someone embody a quality you have abandoned is to be reminded of what you lost. Instead of celebrating the other, the mind destroys them. Envy is unspoken desire. It is the soul saying, "I want that too, but I do not believe I am allowed." If you can see this pattern in others, you become largely immune to petty hostility. If you can see it in yourself, you become free. 17. People act out their childhood, not merely their beliefs. You have heard the phrase, "people don't change." Nietzsche would reframe it: people repeat. They repeat the roles they were forced to play, the fears they were taught to carry, the dynamics they never escaped. A person who is never heard often becomes someone who struggles to listen. A person punished for expressing emotion becomes cold, logical, detached. A person who had to earn love becomes someone who continues performing for affection even when that affection is unhealthy. They believe they are acting from conscious beliefs. In reality, they are often reenacting the past. If you want to understand someone, do not look only at who they appear to be now. Ask who they had to become in order to survive. Behavior is frequently biography. Behind almost every adult stands a child still waiting to feel safe. 18. Their patterns are a confession if you know how to listen. This is the final truth, and it changes everything. People do not always know how to put their pain into words, but they will show you, again and again, through their patterns. The person who disappears the moment things become close. The person who overworks to avoid stillness. The person who flirts with everyone, yet connects with no one. These are not random behaviors. They are confessions. They are saying, this is how I protect myself. This is where I was hurt. This is what I am terrified of repeating. Nietzsche believed that if you learn to listen deeply, not merely to words, but to patterns, you can hear the truth before it is spoken. When you do, something remarkable happens. You stop personalizing everything. You stop judging so quickly. You start understanding. You become a mirror rather than a weapon. You become someone who sees clearly and still chooses grace. That capacity, more than any technique or clever observation, is what makes a person truly powerful. You are not only reading other people, you are remembering yourself. Take a quiet moment now and reflect. Every truth we have walked through was never only about others. It was also about you, your own patterns, your own fears, your own childhood scripts. The more clearly you see other people, the more clearly you begin to see yourself. This is not the end of the journey. It is the beginning of a new way of seeing. Nietzsche did not simply want us to observe. He wanted us to awaken to recognize that everything we judge harshly in others is often something we still carry, and that everything we admire is something we secretly long to embody. If any of these 18 truths struck you, if you recognized patterns in the people around you or in yourself, do not keep it locked away. Share which one hit hardest. In a world full of masks, honest conversation is rare and valuable. And if this spoke to something real in you, stay connected. This is only the beginning of learning to see what is usually hidden and of becoming more fully who you already are.